This is Grafted Together with ACSI Chief Ministry Officer Jerry Nelson.
In Ecclesiastes, Solomon asserts that there is nothing new under the sun. And while it may seem like a short-sighted claim at first, it is a profound statement. Solomon was referring to the universal challenges and general dispositions that human beings face when confronted with these challenges. Humanity's reactions to an unfamiliar stimulus, like the rise of artificial intelligence, may seem novel, but we've faced similar situations in the past. Artificial intelligence, as has been recognized for many years and more recently, is a disruptive technology. It is expanding at an unprecedented pace, and its fundamental application for the general public remains to be fully defined. What is not new or new under the sun is that its introduction has already shaped us and will continue to reshape us as it evolves and humans interact with it. Nicholas Carr's 2014 book, The Glass Cage, Automation and Us, emphasizes that any labor-saving device doesn't just simply provide a substitute for a specific component of a job. It alters the entire task, including the roles, attitudes, and skills of those involved. Carr argues that automation fundamentally transforms both the work and the workers who perform it. This has been a consistent theme throughout human history. We can think of the steam engine, the automobile, the cell phone, and each of these technologies has transformed our experience of the world for better and for worse. And of course, every generation has its Luddites and technophiles, those who resist technology due to perceived risk of losing what is most human, potentially being left behind, versus those who place all of their faith in technology, believing it would solve all social problems. And these individuals very well may be misguided. It is clear that a balanced approach is necessary, and it takes wisdom to discern the right balance. History has shown that while the stimulus humans experience in the world may manifest differently, their reaction to it remains remarkably consistent. If the human reaction hasn't changed due to our inherent nature, is there a guide that can help us find that balance, moving away from the extremes that technology tends to create, yet doesn't erase our humanity? And this is the crux of the matter. What does it truly mean to be human in the age of AI? And how can we utilize it in the most human way, preserving our essence and not losing our identity as image bearers? I believe this is the very question that Solomon sought to answer. And if Solomon were alive today, I think he would have posed this question during his investigation of the world. How can we use AI wisely? You know, the development of wisdom is an issue of spiritual formation. It is the aim of Christian education, and it is what sets us apart from other forms. At ACSI, our desire is that students become faithful followers of Jesus Christ. You, the practitioner, are the most important factor in the classroom, on the field, and in the theater. We want to equip you to do your job effectively. And one of the easiest ways to get equipped is to join the Spiritual Formation Network to connect with leaders who serve as ambassadors of spiritual formation. That's whether you are a discipleship director, a campus pastor, a family ministry director, a Bible teacher, or any role where you have been designated as the point person to oversee spiritual formation initiatives in your school. This network is for you. And by joining the network, you will connect with leaders from around the world. Our goal is to identify 1,000 spiritual formation ambassadors around the world and connect them with each other by the end of 2027 school year. So to date, we've identified 315 since the network launched a year and a half ago, representing 28 countries. This is truly a diverse group you want to plug into. So to join the network, go to acsi.org/spiritual formation, scroll down, click on the green Join the Network button, input your information, and receive updates on opportunities to connect with practitioners like you. Again, that is acsi.org/spiritual formation. Joining me today to discuss the topic of the wise use of AI is Paul Matthews, who is a school leader at an independent school in Southern Tasmania, Australia, a TEDx speaker, and a best-selling author with a passion for helping others navigate artificial intelligence with clarity and confidence. He speaks to professionals across Australia and North America, equipping them to respond wisely to the opportunities and challenges AI is creating in education. His most recent book, Wise AI, which we'll discuss today, outlines a compelling vision for using this powerful technology in a deeply human way. Paul, welcome to the podcast.
Well, Jerry, it is such a treat to be speaking with you. I know that these circumstances, I'm looking at my laptop here, I've got my microphone, not quite as good as the last time we spoke, which was gazing out over the Adriatic Sea over
Oh,
breakfast at an ACSI conference. But this will have to do for now.
this will have to do for now. Maybe we just need to throw up a picture of that view and just kind of reminisce here.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul, man, you just had a new addition to the family. I've got to lead with that, man. You want to tell us about that new addition to your family?
Sure. Yeah. Well, look, God has been very kind to the Matthews family, Jerry. We had the healthy and safe arrival of our fourth son. We called him Barnabas Willem Erasmus Matthews, and he is healthy. He's well. He's sleeping about as well as you would expect a newborn to sleep. So we are absolutely tickled with the fact that he is here and he's healthy. He's got, as I said, three older brothers, and they can't get enough of him. So they're doing a lot of cuddling and holding and learning to be gentle, which is also an important lesson. So yeah, we're very thankful to the Lord, Jerry.
That's wonderful. As I remarked before we hit record, I said it's such a blessing to have children born into strong Christian families. It's one of the
Mm.
fastest ways that the gospel goes forward. So just hey, congratulations. We want to celebrate that, and we know they're going to get a strong, solid, not only spiritual formation, theologically sound education, but one that's going to really produce wisdom. So, and just congratulations again. Well, Paul, hey, tell us a little bit about you and in particular your journey to becoming a Christian educator.
Well, I'm a big believer, Jerry, that our stories don't actually start with us. So
Mhm.
my education story, it probably started even before this, but I would trace it at least three generations back. So my grandfather, he is a Christian educator. He spent a lot of his time, although he lived in Australia, he spent a lot of his time in Fiji as a missionary, as a leader in a Christian school over there. And then my father himself has been a school leader. In Australia, we call it a principal. You might call it an administrator, but he's been a
Mhm.
principal in multiple Christian schools in Australia and now leads a network of schools.
Wow.
And so I guess when it got down to me, third generation down the line, there was no opportunity to do anything different. I just feel it's a family trade. And in fact, I've got three younger brothers myself, and they're all Christian educators, right?
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's just, it's what we do. It's in our blood. Well, I say they're Christian educators. The black sheep of the family became a church pastor. But the three other of us work in Christian schools, right? So, and look, I've got four boys, Jerry. I hope they become Christian educators. So,
Mhm.
my journey to Christian education, by God's grace, just seems inevitable. It seemed like I couldn't do anything else, and I love it. I'm not one of those characters who says, I leave work with more energy than I came in with. I still get very tired, but I also
Mhm.
feel like it's a good tired. It's my head hitting the pillow at the end of the day saying, this is exactly the way I wanted to spend my calories.
Mhm.
And of course, over the last 3 years or so, I've also had an increasing role of working with different schools and organizations and individuals as we think about artificial intelligence and wisdom and what it looks like to be faithful disciples in the midst of this rapidly changing world. So there's
Mhm.
a little bit of a dial where I'm doing a bit more of that now and a little bit less school leadership and teaching. But by God's grace, I get to do both, and I'm having a real blast doing it.
Yeah, one of the things that really I was really intrigued with when I sat in your session at the International Schools Leader Conference in Croatia was just your ability to take something complex, like it may be a little nebulous to some people, like artificial intelligence, and really break it down. And but I would tell you the thing that really intrigued me the most was what your starting point was when it came down to artificial intelligence. You know, you started with this whole idea of a theological framework. But even before we get into that, I'm curious, what happened that made you begin to pivot towards, more work in the area of artificial intelligence? What was the flashpoint, if you will?
Well, here we go. This is an interesting story. It's sort of my superhero origin story, except I'm not a superhero. I just talk about technology. So, look, what it was based in my classroom practice, Jerry. So, what I found so often, and this will be an experience common to the other educators listening to your podcast, I found that there were almost unlimited needs in my classroom. As I was there, I was sharing the room with 26 other image bearers, and I deeply wanted to make an impact on them. Their formation is my deepest hope, all right? Yet what I often found was that in my grade 9 history class, there's someone reading at a grade 6 level. And so that means if I'm going to actually welcome them into the learning, I'm going to need to try and produce a grade 6 level version of that grade 9 reading. Now, that might take me 30 or 40 minutes. But then maybe we've also got someone who's reading at like a grade 3 level. They need significant adjustments. And we've got someone who can read just fine, but they can't write very well. So they need some sentence stems to actually get them started with their writing so they can think on paper and clarify their thoughts. So you start to see what I mean when I say that there are nearly infinite needs in the classroom. And so I felt really frustrated because I had a deep heart for these learners. I wanted them to be formed and shaped, yet I faced my own limitation. And then artificial intelligence comes along. And it's not a compelling solution to every problem, but boy, oh boy, those problems that I was feeling, it knocked them out of the park. So what it could actually do, Jerry, it could create a grade 6 version of that grade 9 reading in seconds, not hours. And those sentence stems in the click of a finger, right? The phrase I give for this, and I believe it's a deeply Christian idea, is pedagogical hospitality. My pedagogy is the way I teach and learn. Hospitality is welcoming the outsider. All of a sudden, I have this I can open my laptop and access a website that allows me to welcome more people into rich formational learning than ever before. And no one's getting more excited about that than me, right? So that's why I like technology. And that's why I would put it to you that you and your listeners should like technology, not because of the tech. I don't find tech that exciting at all. I find impact incredibly exciting. And that's why I think we should get excited, because AI allows us to have a big impact in our classrooms.
And I think the thing that really intrigued me, as I was saying from the beginning, was your starting point. But I know your starting point, your theological starting point, really informed your practice. So, I mean, just even in the example that you gave, it's you're not using it to replace, the human experience itself, but you're using it to maybe cut down on time in areas where it would have taken you 30, 40 minutes maybe to craft a differentiated lesson. Artificial intelligence can adjust that up or down to really assist you, in that need to meet the learners where they are. I want to come back to that and talk about the framework that you developed. But let me go back. I know I'm jumping around here, but I want to talk about that theological starting point. And I was taken aback because I've heard a lot of people talk about artificial intelligence, and it almost felt like they skipped over the theological framework or that theological vision and got right to the practical side of things. And I was like, I don't know. I always think about that quote from Aristotle. It's like, a slight deviation to one, a slight deviation from the truth manifests itself 1,000-fold, down the road. And so it's important that we have the right starting point. So talk about that theological vision, that theological starting point that informs your practice.
Well, the theology is really important. I know that, you know that, as Christians we know that. That's how we think about God and the world around us. And if we're using these tools in a way that isn't acknowledging the fact that Christ is on the throne and God's sovereign, and that we have a duty to form and shape and be hospitable towards, if we leave all that out of the equation, of course it's going to drag us off course. Of course it's going to make us less human and reduce the thickness of our education, right? So we need to get that theology right. And it's interesting as well because there might be a school leader or a teacher out there who says, oh, yeah, look, theology is important, but I want to get practical with this. I've found actually theology is one of the most practical things for many reasons, but one of them is this. There will be a cohort of teachers within a Christian school, and I've seen this with every Christian school I've worked with, who say, I don't want to use this technology at all. I'm actually pretty sick of it. I don't understand it. I think it's probably going to ruin far more things than it actually enhances. But what that can often be is their theological white blood cells attacking something that seems foreign and they don't understand. Right? So we're leaving all the benefits unrealized simply because we haven't done the hard work of thinking about it rightly. And so it's very practical in that way because I've seen teachers with the theological framework go, oh, well, I understand then that, I can see this under the lordship of Christ. I can see how I would execute this Christianly, that pedagogical hospitality. Oh, I'm open to learning. I'm open to trying. I'm not going to be a dead weight as we try and manage this change. So let's think about it very briefly, a theological framework. At the conference, we both had the privilege of keynoting. I gave the LEAD framework. It's really simple, and the idea is for it not to be exhaustive, but to be a good place to start. It's like getting a theological driver's license, right? When you get your driver's license, you don't know everything about driving a car, but you've got your license and you can really start learning.
Right.
And so that's what the LEAD framework is. And the idea is lead is the disposition we are called to, right? To lead our students, teachers, school communities wisely through this, not just to like flinch and hope to minimize the damage, but to actually get on the front foot. And lead is also the acronym. So it stands for living under lordship, acknowledging Christ is Lord over all things. He's on the throne, he rules, he reigns. That keeps us free from fear, but also, to your point in the intro, free from idolatry as well, which is another common response, right? Tech will solve all our problems. Well, no, no, it won't. Living under lordship, engaging ethically, right? Ethics is about formation. How is the tool not just doing things for us, but what is it doing to us?
Right.
We think through that Christianly. Adapting appropriately, right? Every Christian is called to not only read the word, but the world. And so how do we take what's in the world and apply it to the take what's in the word and apply it to the world? Well, we adapt, and we change the way we lead and teach and assess because of the changes in the world, right? We're being good stewards of our schools and students. And then the last one is discuss discerningly, right? So how can we actually have these conversations? Because let me tell you this, Jerry, and you will know this as well. The schools that are doing the worst in all of this are not the schools that are getting the wrong answers. They're the schools that are not asking the right questions, right? They're just not having the conversation. Even just asking the right questions, even just asking, what does this mean for our teaching? What does this mean for our assessment? How would we bring the scriptures to bear? Even just asking those questions is a confident step in the right direction. So I know I've talked for a little while there, but that's a really simple theological framework that I think gets people off on the right foot.
Well, you know what helped me remember it is I think you said there's the Great Commission, there's a Great Commandment, and you called this the Great Disposition.
Yeah, that's right.
I love that. I took some really good notes, at the conference, and I really like what you said about, really creating those conditions to have those conversations, and so that you can ask the right questions. Because again, as we said, it feels like the technology is moving so fast that I think in the minds of certain leaders, it's like, man, we got to do something right now. And I know the tendency, in the West sometimes is, let me go and look for something that's on the top shelf and pull that off. Where I think contextually, you can't bypass the hard work of thinking through this from a biblical standpoint for your own context. It's like you can't really bypass that, because if you just try and pull something off the shelf, especially not doing that work, and it was something that was developed for another context, you may miss some opportunities within your own context, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, theology and theological starting points, absolutely crucial. And I'd also say, Jerry, we want to be thinking about who we are as a school as well. What are our vision, mission, values? What are the
Mm,
attributes of the learners we seek to create? I was trying to give my car directions the other day. I was set me directions. I was taking my boys to this event on the weekend, and it said, I can't tell you where to go. I don't know where you are, right? You haven't turned on your location services. But the same is true for AI, right? If we actually don't know where we are, if we don't know who we are, our distinctives, how will we know where to go? Because there is
mm,
no such thing as a generic school. And therefore,
mm,
there is no such thing as a generic pathway. We,
right.
we need a pathway that suits us and our school and our learners, our community. And so I would say, yep, we need to understand our theology and get those ducks in a row. We
Right.
also need to deeply understand our own culture. And the
Hmm.
really exciting news is, well, it's our theology and our culture that got us to where we are, and it will
Yeah.
keep taking us where we're going to go. And so that's the sort of the same things that brought us here will take us there. And that's
Yeah.
good news for us.
Yeah. And so I what I hear is like there's triangulation that we always have to do, but that triangulation is dependent on the fixed point, right? Which is,
Hmm.
the fixed point of scripture. I want to dive into the framework, your learn framework. Um, because I was really intrigued. You again, you started with the theological, vision, the lead framework, but you also really gave some practical tools to the practitioners who were there. Remind me, I think you did two keynotes while you were there, correct? You had two sessions.
Yeah, absolutely. So one
Yeah.
of them was theology, and another one was sort of a more practical session.
Right. So let's dive into the Learn framework, the one that you outlined in Wise AI. And so, if you want to tell the listeners what another great acronym.
Mm.
Let's
Oh,
dive
yeah,
into that.
absolutely. So, Wise AI was a book I recently wrote with a good friend of mine called Daniel C. And what we sought to find out was how can we use artificial intelligence in such a way that we get the best out of it and avoid all the problems that we might see as
Mm,
well. The subtitle of the book is How Do We Use Artificial Intelligence in a Deeply Human Way? And that's what we want. We want it to be human use, right? We don't want it to thin us out and make us less human and
right.
make us more distant from one another. So, how do we do this in a deeply human way? The learn framework there is also named because, again, that's a powerful disposition. We
Mm,
are to be learners. That's the number one thing we can do to wisely navigate as we think about our posture. We
mhm.
learn, and so we're going to lean into learning. And by the way, yes, there are a lot of acronyms here. I just find they're helpful for me, and a simple acronym tucked away in the brain is far better than a tome's worth of complex information that I can't actually get any handholds on, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean, Jerry?
Oh yeah, I know. The interesting thing is I'm a guy who likes tomes, but the educator in me says I need to make this as simple as possible. So, yep.
Yeah, I love it. So let's look at the Learn framework really quickly. And Wise AI is a book that is useful for Christian educators, but it's also not only for Christian educators or educators at all. So this is
Right.
a mass market book. So so it's interesting, isn't it? In a book that is for everyone, we focus on learning, right? And that's
Right.
good for teachers to tell their students too. Students are going, oh, I've got no idea what the future holds. Are there going to be any jobs for me? What does this mean? Is my education worthless? All these questions.
Mhm.
Well, the advice we give to everyone we work with, including students, is learn. So we can say
Mhm.
to our learners, do a good job of learning now because you're
Right.
flexing the best muscle that will carry you forward in the
Yeah.
future. So we lean into learning is the L. E is embrace your why. So
Hmm.
we need to know our deep why. That's that values piece that we were talking about just
Right.
before. A is act in alignment. So it's not good just to have our values laminated on the wall
Hmm.
in our staff
Hmm.
room. We often say they need to be lived, not just laminated, right?
Right.
So we embrace our why, but then we act in alignment with that, and we've got some
Right.
models about how we get in alignment. R is refine our skill. So our skill is incredibly important simply because there are some key practices, things like how to prompt, how to iterate, how to get the right settings in your AI tool so that you're not flooding the internet with data that you don't want sent out of your school perimeter, these sorts of things. We need to refine our skill. And lastly is we need to navigate change, right? Acknowledging that things are changing quickly. The speed of change is going to continue to increase. The scale of change is probably also going to increase.
Right.
So we need to navigate change. So if we can sort of lean into learning, explore our why and embrace our why, act in alignment, refine our skill and navigate change, well, that will actually take us where we need to go with this, Jerry.
Yeah, I want to talk. I want to talk a little bit about the prompting that you've recommended, because I think that was probably one of the most powerful, I think, pieces that you really shared during your teaching time, was how you structure how you teach educators to structure their prompting with the use of artificial intelligence.
Prompting is really important because it's giving a set of instructions to a machine, and the clearer our instructions, the clearer the output will be. Now, let me say at this juncture also, if it sounds like there's weeping and gnashing in the background there, that's because there is a little bit of weeping and gnashing. Anyhow,
Don't
I
hear
trust we will be
anything.
able to trust we will persevere with that. So our ability to give clear instructions is really the thing that will actually give us good, high quality output, right?
Hmm.
And so if we can, I like to break it down into three sections. If we can use those three sections, we stand a far better chance of getting something that works. Because honestly, when I go into schools and I talk with people and they say, "Oh, Paul, AI just gives things that are so bland and generic." Well, often the prompts are bland and generic. And that's
Hmm.
a problem, Jerry. So I like to say, give AI a role, start with a role, and that might be you are a or act as a, all right, year 8
Hmm.
history teacher, year 10 science teacher, those sorts of things. Because AI can do anything in the world, we need to actually narrow it down and say it's education, it's this particular grade, it's this particular discipline, and that will get some of those words, ideas, vocabulary aligned with what we want. Give it a role, give it a task, so that we're explaining what we want to do clearly, and give it a format. So AI is getting really, really good at producing things in a grid or a table or in dot points
Right.
or in a Word
Right.
document or a PowerPoint. It's getting increasingly powerful at producing all kinds of assets. So again,
Hmm.
if we can articulate it clearly, we can then receive something that's far closer. And the good news is we have this idea of what we want, right? We're trying to get it out of AI. We think, oh, this technical AI prompting, I don't know about this. This sounds like a whole nother thing to learn. What it is explaining a task, Jerry. Now,
Hmm.
teachers are going to be top 1% in the world at explaining tasks. It's one of our big parts of our job, isn't it? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I have every confidence that with some simple training and frameworks, teachers can be fantastic users of AI, not because we're necessarily good with technology, but because we're good at the things that make us good with technology.
Hmm. That's a good statement. And so it's really helping teachers to recognize the inherent abilities that they already have, and really helping walk them through and say, yeah, you already do this well. So I mean, there's you said that you're not a superhero, but I mean, teachers do have some superhuman qualities, in a sense.
Mm.
And I think that what I hear you saying is, if teachers can understand that they already do some of the things that's required to utilize AI effectively, I think their posture towards utilizing it might be a little bit more open.
Can I tell you a story, Jerry? I
Yeah,
know this
sure.
will resonate with you. You're a strong bloke. I've shared a table with you. I know you're a strong man. There's a story of a guy called Eddie Hall, who is a famous powerlifter. He was the world's strongest man. And someone challenged him to not do a powerlifting workout, but a CrossFit workout. CrossFit is very different to
Hmm.
powerlifting, high intensity, high heart rate. And they challenged him to do this, sort of pick the bar up from the ground and put it over your head as many times in a minute. He's not a CrossFitter. He said he'd never done CrossFit in his life, yet he broke the world record. Eddie Hall
Hmm.
broke a CrossFit world record when he'd never done the discipline Why? Not because he was good at CrossFit, because he was good at things that made him good at CrossFit.
Mm,
And I'd put it to you that teachers are the Eddie Hall of AI. We might not be great with tech, but we are great at the things that will make us great with AI, right? We can explain
yeah.
ideas clearly and give task instructions clearly, right? That's prompting. The next thing we have to do with AI, once we get something, is called iteration,
Hmm.
tweaking it through the output of the chat, right? So we say, can you make it shorter? Can you make it longer? Can you put these words in there? Well, that's just giving feedback. All right.
Yeah.
So the big skills that everyone in the world needs to use to have this technology work for us is explaining tasks and giving feedback. Teachers are the best in the world at those things, Jerry. So I
Yeah.
think we can have every confidence of being able to do
Yeah.
this really well.
Yeah, I mean that's really good, and I love it because it seems that's how we protect against hallucination that takes place within artificial intelligence, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, we talk in the book Wise AI about the importance of organic intelligence. And really, we are
Hmm.
always to verify the output of artificial intelligence with our organic intelligence.
Hmm.
After all, Jesus actually put us in charge of the classroom, right? He put
Yeah,
us in charge
yeah,
of the school. And so we are the ones who has to say, yes, I stand by this as a representation of something I'm comfortable with in my classroom. So
right.
organic intelligence, and again, let's tell our students about that, Jerry. Say, hey, you're coming into a world with this powerful technology. That doesn't mean you kick in the clutch and stop learning. It means there's
Hmm.
probably a bigger return on the investment of your learning than ever before. So keep learning, keep growing, keep
Yeah.
being shaped and formed in the way we want you to be. Because in the world that you are coming into, there's a lot of things we don't know about it. But what I think is true is that our own organic intelligence is going to be more important than ever.
Hmm. Yeah. So to summarize what I'm hearing is, one of the first things we need to do is we need to lead well with this, right? So the
Hmm.
lead framework, and then we need to learn well. And those two things are just extremely powerful. First of all, shaping our disposition first and foremost, and making sure that we're not running away from something that obviously is under the lordship of Jesus
Mm,
Christ. I mean, obviously, if we truly believe in the lordship of Jesus Christ, the a, artificial intelligence coming into existence and into fruition and materializing in a sense it's not a surprise to God. That idea
mm,
came from His mind, and so if we take that standpoint and ask, just again, as I said in the opening, just like the steam engine, just like the automobile, like the cell phone, and ask, all right, hey, how do we use this in a wise way? Then we might find a way forward to use this in a God glorifying way, even in a world where we know it's going to happen. People are going to use this technology to exploit other people, but as Christian educators, we know that we have this higher responsibility to give glory to God. Any other last bit of advice that you have for practitioners, Christian educators, or whomever? And I love the fact that I love the way the book reads, and there's a hospitality. I feel like I'm invited. It's reading the book, and I love reading, but it felt like a warm hug. I felt like I got to really got to know you and Daniel, in this book. But any last bit of advice to Christian educators, around the world?
Sure. Let me give you four pieces of rapid fire advice. The first two are for teachers about teachers. So, number one, if you're really uncertain about artificial intelligence, and I know that there are a lot of teachers like that, just give it a go. Actually start up something, go to your Copilot or ChatGPT or Claude. I'm a Claude guy myself. Just go and actually give it a crack, right? There's a lot, we sometimes say you can't learn to ride a bike at a seminar. There are some things you can only learn by doing, and if you're uncertain, just give it a go. This is a great chance for you to model the very thing you expect from your students every single day, and that's being a learner. So if you're nervous or hesitant, just give it a go. I think you'll find you're actually better than you realize. If you're really good, my encouragement to you is be a good Christian educator and give away your best stuff. All right. The cardinal sin of education, even Christian education, is that excellence exists in silos. And there's amazing things happening in one classroom, and then down the hallway, it's a completely different world. Give away your best stuff. If you're using a tool really well, or able to create great resources, or you've got a good prompt or a good skill that you've developed, give it away. All right. We're all on the same mission here. So, yep, give it a go and give it away is what I would say to teachers. And then let's think about our students really quickly. We have to train them to use AI. I strongly believe that. Controversial, I understand. But the thing about it is they are going to learn, Jerry. They are going to learn how to use AI. It will either be from teachers or big tech. That's the only two options, right?
That's good.
What we're seeing in some of the data at the moment is only 15% of students are learning about AI from their teachers, and about 55% of students are learning from social media and big tech. Now, as teachers, we love them. We want to see them shaped after the image of Christ. Big tech wants them to stay on the platform, wants them to spend more and more time there, wants to harvest their data and sell it. Who do we actually think is better placed to teach students about how to navigate this powerful technology? I know for teachers, they get nervous. I'm going to send you a copy of an ebook I'm writing called 10 Things Every Student Should Know About AI, and you can share that with your members. But we need to teach them, because if we don't, someone else will. And I think we're in the best position together with parents to teach students about AI. So we need to do that firstly. But secondly, we need to be very careful about when our students are accessing technology and what they're using, all right? It's never been easier to create something that looks like it required effort and thought without actually requiring any effort and thought, right?
Absolutely.
Part of what shapes our learners is the effort, is the thought. So I would just say, be very clear with your learners about what you expect from them with their work, and keep a close eye on them, because these tools, like you can't, there's a list as long as my arm. In fact, there's probably a list as long as your arm, Jerry, of tools that people can access. They're everywhere, right? So we can't block or ban. Just be very careful about what your students are doing on their laptops. Maybe put the computers away for a bit and go to pen and paper and see how that impacts engagement. I would say just keep a close eye on that too.
Yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day, what we're aiming for is that our teachers and students, or any practitioner around the world, especially believers, use AI wisely. So Paul Matthews, thank you for your time. And again, congrats on your family.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I really appreciate you joining the podcast. And we'll make sure that we link all of your resources, including the book, Wise AI. So those of you who are watching on YouTube, there it is, Wise AI. Make sure you guys get your copy. And for those of you who are avid listeners, or you're very brand new to the podcast, we were able to do a few other episodes on artificial intelligence. So check out episode 1, episode 2, episode 19, and episode 59. And we'd love for you to, if you haven't, to join our Spiritual Formation Network. Paul, again, thank you for joining the Grafted Together podcast.
Always a treat, Jerry. Thank you.
All right. God bless.
Grafted Together is a presentation of the Association of Christian Schools International. Learn more about biblical worldview and spiritual formation at acsi.org/graftedtogether.